Welcome to Resourced and Resourceful Leadership, a podcast for people who care about the world and their impact in it. I'm your host, Dr. Christine Pettit. Thank you for listening in today. Today's episode is a special one to me. It's a conversation with my friend, the Honorable Jeannine Pearce, a former Long Beach City Council member, mom, community leader, and community builder, and scholar. She's also a great chef, my swimming buddy, and one of my best friends. She has an incredible story, which you will hear some of today. And I also want you to be fully at choice with listening. So know that there are some mentions of childhood trauma, neglect, and abuse, even if those exact words aren't used, addiction, suicide, murder, and rape and sexual assault. We don't dwell on these topics or go into them extensively, but they are mentioned as part of her story. We also talk about community organizing, parenting and co-parenting, doing things differently than what we've seen growing up, intentional friendships, practices that support resilience and growth, and integrity in leadership. I promise you this conversation will leave you inspired and intrigued, and I'm hoping that it fills up your cup. There are a few acronyms and names mentioned, so I just want to share them up front. LANE is mentioned. That's the Los Angeles Alliance for a New Economy. The coalition is talked about. That's the Long Beach Coalition for Good Jobs and a Healthy Community, or it was. The name has changed. Now it has a more straightforward name, Long Beach for a Just Economy. She mentions the name Suja. Suja is a former city council member, Suja Lowenthal. Long Beach Rising, a civic engagement program that emerged from coalition work. She also talks about dating and mentions a relationship that was at 10 weeks at the time of recording and is now at 14 weeks. So that's pretty exciting. Anyway, without further ado, let's get into the conversation. Jeannine, welcome to the Resourced and Resourceful Leadership Podcast. I'm so happy to have you on today.
I'm so happy to be on with you today. Very exciting.
Yay.
Why am I nervous with my best friend's podcast? I don't know, but it's very exciting.
Yeah, it makes sense. These things get us a little like nervous or nervous-sided. And I think for us, it's been like this process of getting to today where it's like, of course, I want to have you on the podcast, but what are we going to talk about exactly? Because we talk so frequently and for so many years, and it's just, but like lately we've been swimming together regularly and talking. So of course I could ask you a zillion questions about a zillion different topics. And I feel like how we think about things together is evolving too. So we landed on this is a point in time in our conversations. And yeah, I'm really excited for to hear what you have to say and for folks who are listening to get to know you a little bit better too.
Yay. I'm super excited. Yeah, we talk about everything from professional work to super personal things. We problem solve together and we have a lot of experiences together. So it is a fun idea to be on this podcast.
Yeah. Do you want to share a little bit about how we first got connected and your memories around that?
Sure, I can definitely share that. So I was a young organizer at Lane. I'm not sure if I was staff yet or not, but there was a hotel development that was being proposed on Ocean and Cherry. And my task was to go and build community support for the workers that wanted to eventually work in this hotel. And so I did a lot of nonprofit outreach. My Girls in Action was one of them, but we also did a neighborhood outreach. And so I went to my very first neighborhood association meeting. Maybe it's my second one for Alameda Speech. And you were the communications person. You're a resident, but that was the role you played on the board. And so I asked you for a one-on-one. I was like, out of all these people here, who can I jive with? And we had our first one-on-one at Portfolio Coffee Shop, and I had a nice little folder with a printout about Lane and all the work. So we started off in that space. And then you came in and started supporting the coalition work that we were doing with Lane, which is the nonprofit that I used to work for that does labor community policy work. And then I had Jubilee, and our friendship leveled up. I live here without any family besides Ryan at the time, and you really stepped up to help me take care of Miss Jubilee. I had that carpal tunnel in my hands, and you'd be like, go take a shower, kid. That was
Yeah,
the beginning.
it was the beginning. And I remember like slipping you my card at the neighborhood association meeting too, because I was a union organizer and leader at the time and really connected to what you were saying and was just really interested. And I loved the work that you were doing in Long Beach. And it was for a while, I was like, oh, I want to be part of the coalition. So it
Mhm.
was nice to come in and be part of that with you. And I know we were just talking recently about some of the facilitation work that we do. And you were sharing, like, oh, I feel a little rusty. And I'm like, yeah, but I learned a lot of what I know and do through from you and working with you. And we got to work on some cool projects and ballot measures and all kinds of things together.
So many things. The 2008 to 2014, those were the building years, right? For the Long Beach Coalition, which, if some of your listeners don't know, that was the coalition work that Lane and the LA County Federation of Labor and the nonprofits here built to begin by supporting hotel workers in their fight for living wages, but evolved to be such a bigger effort here in Long Beach. But it was a great experience because there was nothing like it before, right? Like nonprofits were known for coming in and leaving, like not being able to get traction. And so I remember 2010 was like that year of, okay, it's all not working. The typical thing we do in LA isn't working here. So what do we do different? And that was where my meeting facilitation really stepped up because it wasn't just like facilitating a board meeting, it was bringing in teachers, TAUB, neighborhood residents, all these people behind one vision. And that took a lot of skill that I learned from a lot of other organizers and facilitators. So it was good times.
Yeah, definitely that organizing. And I think when you learn organizing, when you learn facilitation, it's applicable to all parts of your life. It just makes you that much more effective in all parts of your life too. And
100%.
yeah.
100%.
Yeah. And then yeah, our relationship evolved to friendship and seeing you become a parent and just us connecting over our personal stories, over our values, going through hard times. Like our friendship has changed over the years, but I'm really grateful for it and for you.
Yeah, me too. Me too. And I know that every time we go swimming, we're like, what's going to be on the podcast? And then we do the prep work. And so you never really know what's going to end up on this thing or how our conversations lead. But since we're starting with our friendship and thinking about the coalition work, you stepping up for me when I was a new mom, there were also hard times, right? Like you 100% supported me when I ran for office. But then the years in office were, I think we looked up the name of what I said my book was going to be, and it was like The Confessions of a Distracted Progressive, right? So there were definitely times when I was on council when you stepped up and had some difficult conversations with me about, look, you never come over here. I go over there. I show up for you. Are you showing up for me? And I think that's what's made our friendship like even more amazing is that we were able to have these difficult conversations that a lot of times people think to have with their spouses or with a family member, but you really modeled like good friendship for me, whether or not you were learning that new friendship style at the same time. And we're pretty awesome because we did that work together. So
Yeah, I agree. And it's always hard for me, and I have shied away from difficult conversations and friendships that was safe to be able to do that was, I know, like we're already crying.
What are we at? We're like 5 minutes in.
Yeah.
Just get that work out of the way so we can
Yeah.
it down.
But I think that's so cool. And I think in ways you are chosen family for me too. And I think, yeah.
Same.
And a lot of, I don't know, I just value the ability to share with you honestly about what I think and, about our relationship and get feedback from you and have it be that reciprocity and kind of give and take.
It's pretty special. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. I definitely learned a lot from you, and I model it in other relationships that I have now. And like I said this morning, I was like, I hear your voice. Oh, do you think that's a good thing? Will that support you? And it's a great friendship. All right, that's all, guys. Friendship podcast over.
I was talking to my Aunt Babs just an hour ago, another very special person in my life, and she was telling me how much she enjoyed the last podcast episode that I released. And then I said, well, I'm interviewing Jeannine in just a little bit. And she was like, ooh, that's the podcast I really want to hear. And she said, I don't think I've ever told you this, but I think of Jeannine as a wild card in the best possible sense.
Oh, so sweet.
So yes. And I think that's a good segue to thinking about what we wanted to share, which we were talking about really sharing more of the personal today. And you are about to turn 45. Happy birthday. By the time this comes out, you will have turned 45. So I'm just wondering, as you approach this new year, what's on your mind? What are you thinking about? What are you learning?
Yeah, 45. Nuts. As I approach 45, I'm thinking I'm in this grad school program. I'm in a PhD program in my 4th year. I've had a lot of starts. I've had a lot of challenges. I've had a lot of opportunity to overcome and to learn how to reach for my goals. And a lot of times of listening to what other people think I should be doing. And so I have done some thinking about like, who am I in this space? Like I'm an academic, I'm a scholar, I'm a mom. And what does that mean? It really is like I enjoy the systems change work. And I've always related that when I say those words to governance and policy. But as I think about my personal life over the last 5 years, especially post-council, it has been a systems change for me personally. It's been introspective of like, how do I get out of rock bottom, right? How do I take responsibility for my every minute, my every action, and set a vision and step towards that? And as I approach 45, it's like, what can I shed and let go of? And what systems in place help me feel more free and feel more myself? It's crazy to me to be like, oh, you're 45 and you're still figuring out who you are. But that's life's journey. And as soon as you accept that, like, there's nothing, you're not going to reach this moment and be like, everything's perfect. It's always a systems change, right? It's always a tweak. New things come into your life, new people come into your life. That's what I think about right now is like, how can I just prioritize my time and where do I fit in? I've been a part of the Long Beach movement since 2008. I started 2007, 2008. And moved on to the council from the coalition work. It was lonely. I remember Suja telling me, being a council member is lonely. And I am a movement person that has been surrounded by community. And I thought, that might be it for you, but that's not going to be it for me. But it was really lonely. Even though you're surrounded by people that are smiling at you and want to make you happy, my base, I felt, wasn't really there with me. I felt isolated from it. And then everything that happened on the council and then leaving council, doing consulting work was fulfilling, but it still was a solo act in a way. So I think as I approach 45, it's like, where do I fit in the community and how can I find myself as a resource again for systems change and where am I most needed versus like, where do I just show up? Yeah, it's a little
Yeah.
rambly. I didn't really write that down beforehand. I don't know if that was a
You don't
specific
need to
question.
write it down. That's perfect.
I
Um, I'm having some audio issues. There was just one part that was choppy a little earlier on, but I trust we will get the essence of what is important here. And what you were just reflecting on right now of going from really being rooted in community to being on the city council and that disconnect. And I think that happens a lot when people move into public office because now the perception of them is changed from the community members they worked with, as well as the different pressures and things that you face.
Yeah,
And also I think the personal pieces that were happening with you too on council made that isolation even more pronounced.
100%. Yeah.
But I really seen you, even in the hardest times, I've seen you connect back to people, to community. And so it's interesting to hear you talk about, and I know we have talked about this, like right now you've gone through this transition of council to consulting to grad school. And then now you're having been out of Long Beach for a couple years, you're living here again. So finding what that means for you now. What does it mean to be connected to community and the issues that you care about now? So yeah, I can see why that's what you're reflecting on right now.
Yeah. No, it's been and I'm still doing some consulting work, which has been great. And part of my challenge that I've said is I love doing all of the work. I love doing facilitation, I like doing mentoring. And so it's like we're recognizing that time is a resource, a valuable, limited resource. I think I have really protected myself from being too involved, and that now it's that like transition period for me to say, okay, I have the capacity, everything but dissertation. Now is the time to find where that is again. So it's a process that's happening over time and trying to show up for the issues that I think are priority right now. Housing for sure,
Mm-hmm.
immigration for sure, our democracy. Going back to the beginning of the work that we did at Lane, like Long Beach Rising, that was, we didn't expect the classes, the workshops that we were doing to turn into Long Beach Rising. But if you recall, the coalition was like, people don't understand where power sits within the city. So we started off, Nicole Kababa leading the effort with us was like, let's do 4 sessions. One is, who is the city council? What chartered power do they have? What chartered power does the mayor have? The city attorney? And we did these like 4 different sessions, and there was over 50 people at each of them. We were blown away. We were like,
Mm-hmm.
oh my God, these people are really interested. And that shifted into what we called Long Beach Rising with the training and Liberty Hill support to be able to get people into boards and commissions to strengthen our democracy and to try to
Right.
increase voter turnout. 2010, I think it was 10% of the population was voting in a local election, and 70 something percent were white folks.
Mm-hmm.
So you look at the city that we have today, that took a lot of work that wasn't issue specific. The issue was our democracy. It was making sure that the people that lived here felt represented. And
Mm-hmm.
so it's something I'm really proud of. And obviously there's a lot of community work that have already are building on that work. And so I'm not sure exactly where my resources are the most useful there, but it's inspiring to look and see what everybody's been doing.
Absolutely. Yeah, that time of really building knowledge of the city, of decision making, of where power lies and how to move it, that
Mm-hmm.
was critical, so
Yeah.
impactful. And I love to see it continue on too. I feel like once you learn that, and I especially love to see it in youth
Oh
organizing,
yeah.
it's like once you learn that, you can't unlearn it.
Right.
But we're so disconnected from it. A lot of times, it wasn't until Long Beach, until my work with you and the coalition that I really started to understand who represented me locally, how we could make an impact. So it's really powerful.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you have a lot to be proud of. And I know you are now like, okay, branching out and wanting to do some more consulting work. So for those who are listening, a little plug for Jeannine here. She is highly skilled and hireable and
Thank
yes.
you. This is brought to
Yes.
you by.
Yes. It's important for people to know.
This is true. Thank you. Thank you.
Awesome. Before getting into the specifics of your personal story, although we've touched on pieces of them, but you've mentioned that it's something that a lot of people resonate with, and I see that. What do you think people see or connect to when you share your story?
I've received a lot of feedback from surprising people, and I think there's a lot of stuff that happens to us in our youth, circumstances that we don't have control over, and how we respond to those moments, how we take responsibility for what we can move forward on. But we've all been, I feel like most women have experienced some type of sexual harassment or assault and have felt guilt around it, have felt powerless and powerful. And a lot of times we've been told, I definitely was told by a prominent Long Beach woman, that we don't talk about those things, right? We're supposed to keep quiet about the hard things that happen to us. And I'm not just talking about what happened while I was on the council, I'm talking about my childhood as well. And so I think it's so meaningful for people when they get to hear somebody share their story, because it's like they're getting not only to connect with it, but a little bit of more permission, cultural permission to share what has happened to them. And trauma is only processed whenever we really share and we talk about it and we find other people that have experienced something similar, maybe, but the process that we share in common is how we move out of that space of trauma. And so it gives people some hope. There's some lessons. Again, what systems did I put into place to help me move out of my fight or flight phase of my trauma response? So I think that's what I get from a lot of people when I get private messages from strangers or people online.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. What parts of your story would you like to share today?
How much time do we have? Okay. We had talked about the pivotal moments, and so there's parts
Yeah.
of me that a lot of people don't know. They know my lane days. So I think it's in my foundation of who I am is I was adopted by a very young woman. She was either 17 or 18 when she adopted me. My adopted mom and my biological mom were both strippers at a strip club in Texas. My biological mom was pregnant at 15, and she wasn't in a position to have a daughter. And so, whatever the circumstance, I was adopted and raised by a lively woman that was a lover. Like, she cared so much. She rescued every animal in the world. Our house was a zoo. She was married 7 times. She was part of the LGBTQ community. I grew up going to pride festivals. There was a lot of love and joy that my mom had, but there was a lot of hard times too. She experienced a lot of trauma herself, and that manifested with her sometimes treating me more like a sister than a daughter. So everything that I've ever experienced in my life, sex, drugs, and rock and roll, I did by the time I was 12 with mom's consent.
Mhm.
And I quit at 14 when I met Ryan, my my high school sweetheart that I married. So it was, I thank her so much. When she passed in 2009, I learned a lot more about her after she left. this earth, and I learned a lot more about myself. But a lot of my childhood was growing up really fast. She was addicted to opioids. I drove at the first time at, I think, 13 because she fell and broke her leg because she was high on opioids and did not want me to call the ambulance. I found her several times post-suicide attempt, which she eventually was successful at in 2009. So I had that experience growing up. And a part of what I talk about with my life experience is memories are so complicated. I'm an only child with no father figure because she was married so many times to retell these stories and make sure that my memory is correct. So I always said if I had a book, it would be my life as I remember it, as I recall today, because every year I'm continuing to do work and I have new memories or I have new lens on what happened. And so I've even questioned one of the times at my 13th birthday party, she gave me an ounce of weed for my birthday present. We had a band play and she took me to Planned Parenthood before the party and got me on birth control and then supported me sleeping with the drummer. And at the time, it was weird and scary, but fun and exciting. And my mom was so hip and my mom was so cool. In retrospect, last year, I told somebody the story and I started sitting there. I was like, wait a second. Okay, not only is it not cool, totally not cool, but was there an agreement ahead of time? Like I start questioning these things and these realities that I have. And so I think when I approach the work that I do, it is always with, I'm inquisitive and I'm understanding that some things might be what they seem and sometimes they might not. And I also forgave my mom early on because of all of the experience she had. But I also moved out at 15, right? As soon as I had the means, I moved out. I moved in with my best friend in a trailer park in a tiny closet that had a twin size mattress on the floor, and that was it. And so I moved out so that I could get away from having to be the adult in the room. And she loved me, but it was like when I told her I was going to stop smoking pot, she was like, yeah. And she just laughed. And she was like, that won't happen. And I mentioned something about, oh, if I graduate high school a year early, I can get a scholarship for community college. She said, oh, you'll be lucky if you graduate. So it was just like I didn't grow up with a support system that told me I could do things. My aunt definitely was that for me, but she didn't live close. And so whenever I met Ryan, he was like, I'm straight edge. I don't drink, smoke, sex before marriage, none of that. And I just globbed on. It was like, this kind, sweet person, let me change my life. And so I did, but I also I put myself through my undergrad. I took one class at a time. Photography was my love. And so I was like acing my photo classes, but failing everything else. So had to go back to the drawing board, take one class at a time. And coming to California was the good years. It was being married, having a kid, getting to finish school. So when I went to Cal State, it was like year 8 of me being in freaking college while Ryan's plowing through. So I met my very first professor was Walter Nichols, who is now the chair of the department that I'm taking my program in. And he really supported me in applying to this WAVE program, which was SEIU's, labor summer in Chicago. And at that time, I was thinking I would go to school to get my master's in urban planning. But in Chicago, it changed me completely. My mom wasn't ever a union member. She was in the service industry and we were super poor, had food stamps and everything. So I remember this one house we went into, and by we, I mean me. It was me in a bright yellow sports car on the south side of Chicago. And the house smelled like my childhood house. And I don't know if anybody listening has smelled a house that is infested with roaches. It's a smell. It's like the roach feces, whatever it is, it's a smell. It's distinct. And it just slapped me, took me back to my childhood in a way that I was not expecting. And there was mattress on the floor, and there was a case of ramen noodles, and this woman was a home care worker that had 6 clients and was barely making enough money to feed her kids. And it reminded me that was my childhood and that I wanted to be involved in helping change a system of poverty. And so when I came back, I remember being at the airport, crying my eyes out, going, I can't go back to school. I've got to do this. And SEIU offered me a job. It was a $90,000 job, but I had to leave my undergrad program right then. And I was like, I'm not doing 9 years of college to walk away a year before I'm done. So coming back, I got involved with Lane, and the Obama campaign was happening, and met somebody at Lane, Angela, and then Maya, and did my first organizer training with them the weekend after he won. And it really changed the trajectory of my life. And even those beginning days was like, Ryan was like, you got to go get a job. I was like, nah, I'm going to figure out how to make something work here at Lane. And I was there for 9 years and was really proud to be a part of all of that. So it's the very quickest way I could give my childhood snapshot.
Mm-hmm.
So there's other benchmarks, but maybe ask me another clarifying question or next question so I can pivot.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing. I've heard pieces of your story, and of course, there's so much more. But over the years, and you've been through a lot in your life, and I just want to acknowledge that and just hold that for a minute. You've been through a lot, and
Yeah.
yeah, and just love to you now and to younger Jeannine. And it's just amazing to me that the journey hasn't been easy by any means, but you've made a great life for yourself.
Oh, thank you. Yeah.
You really have. And like I see you with Jubilee and just the intention you bring into your relationship with your daughter. And you have a lot to be proud of.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
You know me, I like to plow through the story.
Yeah. I know. I'm like, let me just, I feel like it's a lot. And like all those
It is.
experiences and
And
so many more.
part of the it's like a defense mechanism, right? Like I tell it like very being
Right.
part
Like,
of
and
that's
then
the
I was,
campaign, part of that's the organizing.
yeah,
Here's the things I share. And so it is always harder to slow down and sit with it because that's when you got to realize how much you've been through and like how crazy. It's my Oprah Winfrey book one day.
definitely a book. Yeah.
You,
And sometimes it's also you're not defined by all those moments in your life either. So sometimes with storytelling our personal story, it's maybe I don't want to tell that story anymore or
mm-hmm.
whatever. Or I tell it in a different way, or I
Yeah.
understand it differently now. So, like you said, you have these different lenses to it too now, just as you're processing things and growing and learning.
Yeah.
One thing that struck me too was we were talking in the hot tub because we go swimming and afterwards in the hot tub
Hot tub chat.
about just something you said to me about knowing your mom at different points in her life. And because you were an activist from a young age, and part of that is what you experienced from your mom, even with all of the chaos and the trauma too. But there was also this piece that came through. And you talked about just knowing her at different points in her life and parents grow and or change, they're different over time, and you have these different relationships. That really struck me.
Yeah. Yeah. And I don't think I had thought about that much before that conversation, but it's my mom died at 49. And my biological mom I got to know a little bit when I was young, and she was murdered when I was 14, 2 months before I met Ryan. And my biological grandmother, I knew growing up. She came to every birthday, and she passed whenever I think I was 12 or 13. So I was thinking about the fact that she adopted me really young, and she was going through trying to figure out who she was. She was 18, 19.
Mhm.
She was in her 20s, like trying to figure out how to be a mom and be her whole self at the same time. And growing up in Pasadena, Texas, right outside of Houston, as a gay woman and a woman that, a queer woman, she also married like anybody that she fell in love with. And they were all backgrounds. We converted to Islam at one point. Like I wore
Mhm.
a head cover and prayed 3 times a day, and then the black Rasta guy and the truck driver guy. And so she was constantly like trying to find this love and this joy for life. But in the activism, not only was it like rescuing every animal, I think I was telling you that there was this point when we would go to Walmart and it wasn't worker issues, it was all the animal stuff. So it was like I'd go to the fish tanks and scoop out the dead fish and be like, Walmart's a murder. Boycott Walmart. And put like Procter and Gamble stickers on like everything that was tested on animals. And she just was like this fierce, you stand up for people and animals that can't fight for themselves. And so that really instilled that level of fight in me. But getting to see her, there was a part when she had left Tony, the last husband she had, and she was living in an apartment by herself instead of the house that I grew up in. And to get her to see her reinvent that space and her try to find her way. She ended up working at a no-kill animal shelter,
Mm.
and people loved her. And she was just such a good, warm heart that I remember when 9/11 happened, and then we went to the day that Bush declared we were going to war and we bombed them. She called me and was just sobbing her eyes out, just, just totally wrecked at this idea of going to war and killing. And I just think, God, she would be losing her mind right now. Uh, but I take a lot of my mom's parenting, the positive parts, and the lessons learned, and I share them with Jubilee. It's important that she knows that she has opportunity while we might be the lowest income or some of the low income people that go to the nice school on the other side of town. She is so much better off than my childhood was. Not in a negative way, but here are lessons I've learned that I'm passing on to you. And she's growing up, right? She's 13. I was on the phone the other day and someone asked me, Dan asked me if she knew about, I can cuss on your podcast. I call this person that occupied a big part of
Oh,
my
yes.
life shithead. He doesn't have a name. It's more like Voldemort. We don't say his name.
Mhm.
Dan asked me if she knew about him, and I said, well, she knows, for your listeners that might not know, very abusive relationship, very toxic, that started off my very first time I was alone with him. He raped me. And it's not a question in my mind because he got down on his knees and started crying and begging for apology because he knew what he did.
Mhm.
And so, without rehashing everything, over the years, I ended up having 2 different restraining orders against him. And so I'm on the phone with Dan, and I said, well, she knows that I have restraining orders against somebody, but she doesn't know that he raped me. And I don't talk on the phone that much at home. Not when Jubilee's around. I'm normally like 100% present with her, but it was like 9 o'clock at night. She was going to bed. But she overheard me and she came into the living room and she was like, I can't sleep. And I was like, oh, what's going on? And I said, just come sit down. And then she just starts crying. And she's, I heard you say you were raped. And I
Mm.
just hugged her and I said, sweetheart, I'm okay. I'm safe. I'm safe. And I just felt her like release her body into me. And I could tell she just wasn't satisfied yet. And so I just said, you don't know him. And I don't think she remembers him. And She didn't spend time with him, but I'm just didn't want her to think it was somebody she knew. So it's just,
Mm-hmm.
you don't know him. And she just released again. And I said, it's 100% his fault and his actions that he did. However, from the moment I met this person, I had a yucky feeling. My body told me, and my best friends told me. I remember you, Christine, you and Carrie saying, don't be alone with this guy. And I was in a place in my marriage and in my life where I felt I was depressed and I was searching for something. And so even though I didn't feel physically well around being around this person, I allowed myself to. And so I was trying to tell her in a way that's, this is why I always want you to check in with your body and tell me if you want to do something or don't. And part of parenting, I felt like my mom pushed me into positions and moments and sex and all of this stuff that I shouldn't have been in. And so this idea of agency and like knowing, trusting yourself is so important. And I'm so proud of the young lady that Jubilee is becoming. Like she speaks up for herself with us, with both her parents, with kids at school. She knows who she is for a 13-year-old. And so I do try to reflect on the good and the challenges that my mom had in raising me. And Jubilee is not me, and I'm not my mom. But those
Mm-hmm.
lessons, they're difficult conversations to have. But I think I'm thankful that I have friends that practice difficult conversations with me because I'm pretty good at having them with Jubilee.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I really like aspire to have that type of communication with Ellie that I see you have with Jubilee. And they're different people
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
They're different kids.
Very different.
For
Very
sure.
different.
And they're different ages.
Yeah.
So we're in a different place. But yeah, I think I love that you have the, what do you call it? Car talks with mom.
Oh, yeah.
Where you like share, okay, I want to make sure to talk about this thing.
Most of the difficult conversations I have with Jubilee, it's in the car. And I realize that part of it's so uncomfortable as a kid to like, sit across from an adult who's looking at you in the eyes and trying to have this big girl talk with you. It's
Yeah.
much easier for me to be driving and to feel her gaze on me. And I know she's listening because she brings stuff back. And that's just like the most amazing thing. Like when I told her I was dating Dan, we were in the car and I said it and she just, really? I could just feel her little glowy face over there. It was so cute. So cute.
Mm. So you've mentioned Dan a few times. You want to share a little bit about dating, new dating?
That wasn't on my topics for the podcast.
I know. You
But
don't
I
have
did mention
to.
them. No, it's great. It's good. I'm dating somebody. It's been 10 weeks. Seems like that's not that long, but it's been pretty awesome. I haven't dated, right? Like I've had my time. I've had my fun over the years, but it has been a wonderful thing to meet somebody at this age that we can talk for hours and have a wonderful time. And he's really supportive and just, I can't say enough nice things about him. So I don't know what else to share. It's just wonderful. I feel very held and seen and cared for. And we laugh a lot and we talk about hard things together. And it's really good. It's definitely a transition with family. Ryan and I have co-parented for so long, and everybody is in awe of our co-parenting. So I think it's been good that from the very beginning I talked with him and we're finding the balance. I want Jubilee to feel supported, but also know that things change. That's life. And I know that change can be hard, especially for kids, especially for this age. I think maybe it'd be different if people started dating when their kids were younger or older, but this is an era of change, but that change only builds resilience for them and skill sets for them. So as long as I'm continuing to have good communication with her, you know?
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I'm excited for you.
Thank you.
As we say, nervous sighted. You know, when you told me, I'm like, okay, okay. But I'm
You
really happy. I'm happy for you because I know you wanted to date, like for real date, you know, and
for real date.
for real date. And he seems to be well matched with you. So I'm
Yeah.
excited for that. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Just talking about becoming a mom, I'm curious because for me, I was scared to become a mom
My
because of my
God.
childhood. Were you
Terrifying.
scared?
Look, I didn't want to get married. I didn't want to have a kid. I was like, my mom's been married 9 times. Why would I get married? Look at my childhood. My mom loved me, but she was crazy, and I'm surprised I'm even here alive right now. Like the stories in my
Right.
childhood are a lot.
Right.
And so it wasn't my plan, but like Ryan and I, we were in love. We dated for a long time, and then he was applying to grad school. He asked me to marry him, and it was like that was right when Friends was ending, and I watched like the marriage episode on Friends, and I was like sobbing my eyes out. So I was like, some shit is happening with me. And then he's okay, so for the paperwork for grad school, it's either married, domestic partner, or single. And if it's single, it means that I have to live with somebody else on student housing. And so I remember saying, let's just get married and not tell anybody. And then I think it was like 3 days later, he asked me to marry him. 3 days later, he asked
Mm.
me to marry him, and he says, but there's a catch. We have to get married tomorrow. So Ryan and I had been together for 10 years, and I got a 17-hour engagement and a wedding at the courthouse and a party. We had a going away party, which he claims is the wedding party. So then when we got pregnant the first time, it was a surprise. And I went and had my ultrasound, and we were 8 weeks in, and she said, this is a strong heartbeat. I would feel comfortable telling family at Christmas time. So we went home and told everybody, pictures with everybody,
Mm.
came home and found out that the fetus hadn't gone past 8 weeks.
Mm.
So that we were just sad. We were just heartbroken. And it wasn't like I felt like it was this dream and vision of you with this kid doing stuff with them that I had never dreamed of before. I never wanted in my life before. Not that I didn't like kids, I just didn't want to fuck some kid up. I didn't want to be responsible. And then we got pregnant with Jubilee pretty quickly after that. And then when I found out I was having a girl, I was like, oh my God, I can't do this. A girl. Are you serious? Now I can't imagine having a boy. But it was scary. And I think part of the way that I deal with my fear, and I look back on my life, like with my mom, I remember I wrote her a lot of letters as a teen. Sometimes the verbal communication is hard, right? With Ryan, it's hard sometimes. And so let's put it in writing. I try to talk to her as much as possible and respect her as much as an individual. It doesn't matter if she's an adult or a teenager or she was a little kid. She deserves that transparency and knowledge about what's going on around her. And I think the basic way of parenting in the beginning for me was like, I watch kids get jerked around, especially a separated household. You don't know when you're going over to dad's house. You don't know when you're going to mom's house or what the plan is. And so when I think about how I first started communicating with her, it was about just making sure she knew what the days were going to be like. And I think that has served us really well. So my first parenting thing is just recognize that they're a kid in your world, right? Like they don't have agency and power to decide what they're going to do today. So how can you make that easier for them and get any insight? So we're constantly like, do you want to go bowling or do you want to watch movies? I'm not going to tell you what we're going to do today. Let's decide together. Yes, I was scared. Communication is the key, and I tell her that all the time.
Yeah, I love that. I think I relate to you in that sense of, I know as a child and as a young person, I felt so out of control of my environment, and that I didn't have that agency and choice as a child. And it's a really crappy feeling, especially when you're in really tough circumstances. And I feel like I relate to what you experienced in childhood a lot, except for you're at 10 and mine would be like at a 4 or 5. It's like my childhood is just yours dialed down in
Yeah. Yeah. And I
pretty
think,
significant ways, but there's parallels.
and that's the thing. At the end of it, like, regardless what the action was, the reality was lack of control. Like, I didn't have control over the situation. I had mentally a mom that had a lot of trauma that
Mhm.
manifested for her, and her trauma affected me. And I know that's similar with you and a lot of people. It doesn't matter what that action is, it's the impact and the
Mhm.
actions that we then have to feel like we have a choice to make or struggle to make those choices. Like, I could have easily not left home, right? I could have easily not found normal people. Not that Ryan's family is all normal, but everybody's got their issues. But I saw a path to move
Mhm.
forward.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm curious, just thinking about from childhood to organizing and council, and you talked about the systems change in your own life. Like, what has that looked like over the last few years?
Yeah, thanks for that question. Definitely, before I decided to leave council, like I decided not to run again, I was at rock bottom, right? Like, I was censured, and my colleagues did that. And we sat there for an hour and a half while the public sat there and just ripped me apart, not understanding really what had happened in my world. And it crushed me in a way I was not expecting, even though they made it seem like it was all fine and dandy and that they all still respected me and loved me and all of those things. But it took a lot to feel like I could put one foot in front of the other after that. So I had a psychosomatic therapist, I had a crisis therapist, but what helped me more than anything was a life coach. And so, love therapy, but if you want to move out of a position of being frozen, a life coach really helped. And so she she walked me through like the 7 areas of life, and she had me, and this is a practice I still do at least once a year. We've got 7 areas of life: love, family, friendship, physical health, mental health, financial stability, the list. And then it's like you have to write 50 things that would be different if that area of life was as you dreamed it to be, right? I'm financially secure. I'm taking a vacation here, whatever it is. And that is hard to do. That takes a lot of work doing all of those.
Mm.
And then I did a list of all the times that I have achieved a goal that I set for myself. And I remember the first time I did this, I think it was COVID maybe, but I sobbed my eyes out because I had not looked back at all of my accomplishments in a really long time. Like, being on council, I love serving the public, but it was really hard. It's like
Mhm.
you've got a lot of personalities that you're managing and a lot of people that want to control you for their agenda, even if they're friendly. And so to sit there and be like, oh, right, I moved out of my mom's house at 15. I went and got a scholarship for college. I put myself through college. I did all of these things. I got the job at Lane that I wanted. I moved up from an organizer to director. So just writing all of those things and then continuing that list on little bitty things. Like, I make my bed every morning. That's pretty cool. You know, giving yourself praise for the little systems that you put in place and then sitting down and saying, like that Atomic Habits book I've probably listened to on Audible 3 or 4 times. And so I'm constantly thinking about like how my days can set me up. And my days are constantly changing, right? I don't have a lot of structure right now because I'm everything but dissertation. So I don't have classes, barely have meetings. But setting those practices up is really important. The trainings that I got out of Lane that I have tweaked and done for different organizations. So you go back to that systems change with organizations and government agencies. There's a lot of taking stock of what you have, whether it's the leadership skills that you have or the resources that you have, and then prioritizing your goals and setting like little tiny micro goals to reach that big vision. So it's hard to say on a podcast with everything, but there's a lot of that type of work that has been foundational for me that I continue to come back to. And I've even done power analysis training, like personally.
Oh, that's interesting. I always think one of the tools that I learned working with you was the pop.
Oh,
One of my
yeah.
favorite, but it's like you can pop everything in your life
I
too.
pop everything. You got to pop it
Yeah,
before you lock it, I say. So, pop for the
exactly.
audience is purpose, outcome, process. So, what's the purpose of this conversation? What's the purpose of this podcast? What's the purpose of this date tonight? Whatever it is. And then and when it's over, what do you want the outcome to be? So, the thing is over, what's the outcome? And then process is all the steps you put into place to make sure you can get to that outcome. So, I definitely love popping and locking it. That's the best.
Yes, yes. I love to quote you on that when I share the pop with people. I'm like, as my good friend says, you can't lock it unless you pop it. And I definitely popped this podcast,
Oh, I love it.
like why I'm doing the podcast and all of that. So,
I love it.
yes, you've had a lot of experiences in life that have made you the leader that you are today. What does leadership mean to you at this moment?
Yeah, leadership, first, the word that comes to mind for me is integrity. So I didn't know the definition of integrity for many years, but it basically is following through on your values. So the action mirrors the values you have. And so leadership is knowing what's important to you and being able to be open to learning and growing with other people. So, yes, there's leadership development where you're coaching or you're providing information or you're espousing on your knowledge that you have, but leadership is really a conversation for me. It's asking a lot of open-ended questions and dreaming together, making sure you're
Mm.
pulling together resources. One of my favorite parts of being on the council was I love the policy work, still love policy work, but I felt like I was the bridge in between the resident and the staff of the city has been there for a long time. And they are doing a lot of great work and they've got their plates full. And often community can feel miles away from the work that they do, even though it's grounded in community. So being that bridge to resources and people. And
Mm.
right now, leadership for me in this space, I think that's where I'm navigating and finding out where I want to serve. I've had people ask me about commission seats. I've had people ask me about boards, about volunteering and fundraising. So, where I'm most needed. I don't know.
Yeah. It seems like this is a period where you can think intentionally about where and how you want to show up and
Yeah.
yeah, what leadership is for you in this phase of life too, or this
Yeah.
place that you're in right now. Hmm?
Yeah.
That's exciting. One thing I know you do regularly in mornings is writing and affirmations. What's your favorite affirmation right now?
My favorite one. Oh, I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. There's so many. It depends on my day. I do write a ton of affirmations. I can't believe I didn't mention that earlier.
Hmm.
Yeah, one of my practices is hot water, lemon, and affirmations. And so, yeah, I'm right where I'm supposed to be. And Gosh, I should have written one down this morning. I didn't do it this morning. What's swimming? Yeah.
I
Where
know
I'm
you've
supposed
had
to
some
be.
things that have shifted your schedule a little bit these days.
I
But
have. I have.
I love what you said, though. You're right where you need to be. You're exactly where you need to be.
Yeah, I'm right
Yeah.
where I need to be. And I'm open. I know that that has been, I talked
Mm.
to you about this, like my hesitation with consulting again. Like, I need to consult. The academic dollars are not going up, that's for sure. But I need to consult. And at the beginning of my grad school program, I was consulting full time almost with Better World Group until that project ended, which was our agreement. And then I was offered a job with my union and I turned it down because I said, I know union work and I know it's not 10 hours a week. And so it's like, part of my affirmations this week have been I'm open to new opportunities. I'm open for consulting. I'm willing and I'm excited. And so definitely like setting my headspace to be there is important because I feel like I've told the universe no for about 3 years. Setting my mental openness has been what's popping right now.
Awesome. Do you hear that, universe and listeners? Jeannine is open to new opportunities.
So
And yes, you're exactly where you need to be right now. Um, Anything else you want to share before we wrap up this conversation?
it's been wonderful, Christine. I know we've talked about it for a while, and I feel like we could record every single one of our swim sessions for lessons for
Yeah.
everybody. Everyone is like a free coaching session. But I'm just really proud of you, and I know that you are definitely somebody I look up to, that you set your goals and your intentions like to do this podcast every Thursday, to release something every time, and it's a this idea of discipline is I think I've mentioned someone told me that I lack discipline. Ryan always would tell me that I lack discipline, and it just pissed
Mm.
me off. I'm like, look at all the things I've done. Stupid discipline. And then my therapist last month was like, discipline equals freedom. And I think that that has helped me shape my days a little more with this lack of structure. Being able to carve out specific time to do the things I intend to do gives me the freedom later on because I don't have to think about me doing or not doing it. Been an
It's
inspiration for me in
done.
that sense. Yeah, it's done. It's just get it
Done.
done. Stop overthinking
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, I think, and it's about like, where do you want to have discipline? Not everything in your life needs to be structured, but it's okay, this is
Right.
important for me. And if I don't do it, it's weighing on me. Or in the case for me of this podcast, it's, yeah, I really want to try this thing. I'm really focused on developing my voice and just bringing these conversations, thinking more, hopefully writing more. So it's, yeah, what would it be like to do this every Thursday for a year?
I
And
love it.
it's and then we'll see. So,
I think you're gonna do great.
yeah.
This is awesome. I love
Uh, yeah, but thank you for being part of it. Thank you for encouraging me along the way. And I do think I want to experiment with different kind of ways of recording. So maybe we will record in the pool one day.
I
It'll
love
be
it. I
fun.
love it. I look forward to it.
Thanks again to Jeannine for the conversation and to you for listening. I'd love to hear from you. What's something from Jeannine's story that stood out to you? And what's something you'd like to hear more about? I've talked with Jeannine about this not being like a one-time conversation. Maybe the next one will be in the pool. Who knows? What would you like to hear us talk about? What do you want to know more from Jeannine or from her story and experience? Please send me a note through my website or a voice memo on SpeakPipe and let me know. Links to both will be in the show notes. At the end of the last episode, I mentioned that if you'd like to get support with your goals, I'm open for consults right now for one-on-one coaching, for organizational work. We can have a conversation and see if we're a good fit for working together. I also said I'd be launching a series of monthly creative dream tea parties in Long Beach. It's something I've done in the past, and I was thinking it would be a good way to blend creativity and community now. But to be honest, I'm just not fully feeling it, at least not in this incarnation. So I'm going to pivot. I'm going to invite people for less structured hangs that I won't be heavily facilitating. That just feels more like what I'm needing right now, and that would be more supportive for me in this kind of time of, I don't know, I just feel like I'm like creeping into 2026. That's how I feel. Anyone else out there feeling like that? I might do an event related to the creative dream tea parties in the future, but just for right now, I'm wanting something a little more open as I like begrudgingly emerge from the haze of the winter holidays. So, despite this pivot, I'd still love to connect with you. We can do that as a consult, like I mentioned. You can send me a message through my website. Those links are in the show notes. Or if you know how to get a hold of me in other ways, do it. Social media, text, snail mail, whatever. I'm here for it. I'm here for you and would love to connect. To support the Resourced and Resourceful Leadership podcast, please follow or subscribe to the show, leave a 5-star review, and share the show with a few people who you think would appreciate it. And please, if you're on social media, share it there. Get the word out. I would really appreciate it. Thanks again for listening. Thanks for all your support, and take good care.